Good evening. We're going to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting for January 28th. And we will begin with an invocation that Council Member Jones has agreed to give. So if you'll stand with me, following that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you bow your heads with me, please? Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the ability for us to come together and meet as a free people. We pray that we're all safe tomorrow during the snow and that we enjoy time with our families and be safe and help each other out as we usually do in Homewood. We thank you for the city employees that will be helping others tomorrow. We pray for their safety, and we pray for a very productive meeting tonight. And we thank all of this. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Salter, if we could have roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gwaltney?
Here.
Mr. Thames?
Here.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Here.
Mr. Wolverton?
Here.
Mr. McCluskey?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Wyatt?
Here.
Mrs. Andress?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here.
And President Limbaugh.
Here.
You have a quorum.
We have 100% attendance. Thank you very much. Next item of business is the reading of the minutes from January 14th, 2019. Chair would welcome a motion for dispensing of the reading and approving said minutes. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to offer an amendment to the minutes. I'm sorry, I didn't notice the discrepancy until, these are the minutes from the last meeting, I'm sorry.
Right, yes.
There needed to be some sort of addition at the beginning that the Ward 4 appointment to the Environmental Commission, the deadline had been extended until the 28th, which is today. There was no notation of that I saw in the minutes. Just wanted to make sure that that was noted in the minutes since we extended the deadline until today.
All right,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Can we have a motion to include that addition to the minutes?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Ms. Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here. So thank you very much. The minutes are approved. We have board vacancies, several. Do we have any? We were closing today the at-large HDRA and IDB vacancies. Did we have any applicants, Mr. Burgett?
Yes, sir. We've got one resume for the Ward 4 vacancy. And then we also have one applicant for the historic preservation, but that does not close till the 25th.
Right.
You should have two for that, Robert. You should have two. You should have two for the historic board for Ward 5.
Can you send out the downtown, anyway, the HDRA/IDB for?
Yes, sir. I will forward those in the morning.
Forward that to us. Thank you.
And Bruce,
Yes.
I believe the Ward 4 Environmental Commission spot did close today, as Mike pointed out. And we received one application, and then one application came in this afternoon at 3:59, which actually did meet the deadline. So we're going to have to schedule interviews for that.
Great. We'll be happy to do that. Okay, good. All right, and as you just said, Ms. Andress, we've still got the historical preservation.
Yes, we have two applicants for that so far and anticipating a third.
Okay, good.
So we've got some interest in that.
Good. All right, so do we have any specific applicants, Mr. Burgett, on the Ward 2 vacancy?
No, sir, not this time.
Okay, good. Well, let's extend that one for another 2 weeks, which I know we've already extended it once, but let's extend it for another 2 weeks. And I'll challenge Mr. Wolverton and Mr. Higginbotham
drum up some business.
See if we can't find a resume or two on that, okay?
Mr.
Good.
Chairman, I'm happy to challenge Mr. Wolverton to do that as well. So, I did want to ask a quick question, because
Sure.
just to clarify my recollection, which is I don't have any recollection. When does the Ward 2 BZA slot close, or did it close today?
The Ward 2, I just have Hydra. It has one vacancy.
I don't have a Ward 2 BZA that's been open that I'm aware of.
I thought we had opened that at the beginning of January.
We did. I remember that we opened it
Or
because
actually, the last meeting in December.
there was some discussion about the existing,
Whether or not we could open it before it
Before
actually
January, yeah.
expired or not, yeah.
well, then we haven't opened it.
No, I believe we did. I believe what we did is we opened it in December. We discussed whether we could do it in January. The idea was just go ahead and do it in December. We asked Mr. Kendrick, and he said we could. And I believe we went ahead and opened it up. I was just trying to see when it closes.
Well,
But if we do not officially have it open,
Can I check on that and get back with you? Since
you
it's my first
can.
night back?
I tell you what we'll do. Let's say that I would like to either open and/or extend it until the first meeting in February, which is what date? I'm sorry. It's 11th. The 11th, to February 11th, if that's okay with you. Andrew, we've got an applicant. I just want to wrap it up when we.
Well, let's see if we get another applicant.
No, I'd be
and
happy to
then-
have 5, but I'm
Sure,
just.
I
yeah,
agree.
thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
No, thank
Will
you.
do.
All right, next item. We need to amend the agenda. We have 10 items to add to this, but that's a lot better than 25, so we can handle this. The first one is 2012-18, which is request for consideration to contest the election results put forth by myself. Number 2, which is new business, also. 290119, which is a request to appoint Melody Salter as city clerk, again requested by myself. 3 is 040119, which is request for consideration of budget amendments requested by Mr. Burgett, our finance director. Number 4 is 050119, which is request for consideration of amending fiscal year 1819 budget for prior year encumbrances, again requested by Mr. Burgett. 060119, request for consideration of declaring the following vehicle surplus. 2006 Ford 500, the last 6 of the serial number is 116721, requested by Lieutenant Didcock and Chief Ross. Number, I can't add, which is perfectly okay. Number 6 is 131218, request for consideration for the adoption of a city records retention policy, again requested by Mr. Burgett. Number 7 is 130119, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of a variance to the sign ordinance 1651 Independence Drive, requested by Greg Cobb. Number 8 is a committee referral agenda item to public safety. Request for consideration to add stop signs at intersection of Woodbine Drive and Lakewood Drive, requested by Stephanie Holly and Barry Smith. Sorry, Miss Smith. That's 270119. And finally, going on the consent agenda is 020119, which is request for consideration to address water leak on Yorkshire Road, requested by Ms. Andrus and Mr. Wright. Are there any other items to add other than those 9? If not, Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval of amended agenda.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Andrus, second from Mr. White. Yes, Mr. Higginbotham.
Mr. Chairman, did we want to add that item about the work session for sidewalks to this agenda, or are we going to do that?
Well, that'll just be an
announcement.
Yeah, an
here.
announcement.
Okay.
We'll make that announcement.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I just want to make sure. I counted 9. You said there's...
Yes, I
thank you.
muttered halfway through that I
Gotcha,
couldn't
thank
add,
you.
and that was the reason. But it's okay. All right, so all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is the new agenda. So we start with the consent agenda. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Mr. Gwaltney. With no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. All right, old business. We're going to start with 2010-18, which is a public hearing continued from November 19th, 2018 at 6 p.m. for consideration of condemning the house at 1627 Salter Road. Mr. Pugh, can we bring this to a conclusion, please? And by the way, I've driven by there this week, so let's talk about it.
Yes, sir. As you all, I'm sure, remember, I gave you a report of the Homewood property maintenance code violations and the list of unsafe conditions that were there. They all center on the carport addition to the house. If the carport addition were removed or the roof that's collapsing were rebuilt, the nuisance would be abated. The rest of the house shows no outward violations.
My 6-year-old granddaughter asked me why that same vehicle keeps sitting there, because she lives up the road. I mean, surely to goodness,
Bruce,
we can get some movement on this.
the homeowner is here.
Good. I want to hear. Come on.
May I approach, Mr. President?
You may. Please sign in with your name and...
Hi, Mr. Keith. I'm Robert Harris. Nice to finally meet you.
And your name is?
Mr. President and fellow council members, I'm Robert Payers, and I grew up in that house, and that's my mom's house. My mom was Geraldine Rose Payers. Dad was Colt Payers, and they bought that property in 1952. I thought I would come this evening. I haven't been able to come, which I will spell out in a little more detail in just a moment, until tonight, but I'd like to tell you what I've done and what I am doing. We would like to avoid obviously condemnation of the carport. We're prepared to move forward with regard to that. Where we've been on this house,
By the
Mr.
way,
President,
forgive me, very rudely. Now the public hearing's official. Go ahead.
Okay, I understand. But I won't start over if that's okay. Where we've been is I've been in touch with Mr. Pugh, and I've been working with him and Ms. Smith as well, and on this matter. And I understand the sensitivity of the matter. I'm going to address the car as well. Been doing our best in getting things cleaned up. I've made progress. I believe that's been reported previously by Mr. Pugh that we've made progress. We've put the fencing up around the carport. We've cleaned up the yard. I have to do this by myself, even though I have an older brother and a younger sister, and I'll just leave that there. I'm having to do it all myself. Mom is gravely ill, and she passed away just a couple of weeks ago.
Sorry.
So, thank you. I'm Mom's caregiver, or I was Mom's caregiver, and have been her caregiver since 2013. Mom was, present tense, Mom was in the hospital 18 times in the last year and a half, a little less than 2 years. And I'd get her home and we'd be going to the hospital again. And we live in Huntsville. And I had to, I brought her, with me because she was just getting so sick and frail. Every time I would turn around, I'd get her home after a UTI or a pneumonia or a heart bypass even she had. In a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, off we go again. Mom and Dad had been there since 1952. I grew up there. I lived there for the first 25 years of my life and went to school here locally. And Mom would be horrified, by it, by the carport, etc. This is not something that is normal to us. It's not anything we accept or that we like. But here was my problem. I did get down here, and I did do work, and I did do what I could as I had time, so forth, and budget considerations too, because taking care of Mom really affected my job. And so the struggle for me was, do I go from work and go to the hospital, which is what I did every single night, or go home when she was home rarely, and spend time with her and take care of her, or do I come here and spend time here? It was a real challenge. I did come here, and I did do work, and I did move the truck, and I did put the fencing up, and I did clean the yard, and I did clean up the carport. It's not enough. More has to be done. And I am now prepared, now that Mom has passed. I don't have that conflict or that problem. I just felt like I needed to be with her. I didn't know when it was going to happen. And, you know, it happened January 11th. We just buried her a week ago. So we want to get the roof removed from the carport, get the carport, the rest of it cleaned up, and the patio cleaned up as well. I can get that done. I can get that done in the next, 30 days or so. I've got a gentleman whose name I've given to Mr. Pugh, I think previously by text, a guy named Jeff, who's already helped me on the property. He's really been a blessing, really a blessing. He's not related to me. He's just somebody I came to know. Very nice man. And we've talked about the next step. I can concentrate on that now, and I think I can get that done. We would like to avoid the stain of a condemnation. We'd rather not have to, some may say that it's just a legal matter. Well, I do understand legal matters very, very well, but I'd rather not have to address that just days after Mom passes away. I'd like to put my energy into getting the work done that we all know has to be done. Now, with regard to the red Jeep, I will be blunt. The red Jeep is fine. The red Jeep is operable. It drives. Yes, it drives. It is drivable. It is not a junk car. It is a 1992 red Jeep that I like very, very, very much, and I'm going to keep it. I did move the truck because it was time to move the truck, and I got the truck out of there. I have plans for the red Jeep. I'm going to do a little more restoration to it. I've loaned it to a friend who was having some problems, and of course what happened is his 16-year-old daughter got into a little bump on it, and so now no good deed goes unpunished. I now have to get that fixed. But anyway, it's an operable vehicle. And I have parked it, I've moved it, and I've parked it under the carport. So I thought I wanted to be helpful and do that. I completely respect my neighbors. I understand they want me to get something done too. Although it's been really neat because every time I'm there doing work, somebody comes over and says, thank you, I really appreciate everything, we appreciate everything you're doing, and we do understand your situation. So I've gotten nothing but love from my neighbors. Although they don't know us, they don't know the Pears family, that have been there since 1952. These are new folks, young folks generally that have moved in with their young families, but it's been very nice. Although some of the people we do know have come up from Windsor and have spoken to me. But anyway, I don't want to keep talking. I do want to let you know that I recognize the seriousness of it, that we're prepared to get it done. I would ask that you all allow me to do that and perhaps table this for 30 days. I'll be happy to come back in 30 days and give you what I think will be a report that everything's done, or if I run into some problem, I'll tell you that. There are a small amount of funds that I'm going to be able to use for this now, and that's going to be helpful too. And that I'll be in receipt of that next week. So I'm ready to move forward to do what needs to be done. And I'm happy to work with Mr. Pugh, Ms. Smith, or anyone you designate, Mr. President, to coordinate this effort.
Well, first, Mr. Pears, we're sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that's genuine. I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Limbaugh.
Two, there's a couple of ways we can go here. One is we can continually leave it on the agenda, but another way I think would be I'm going to ask the two Ward 4 folks to keep monitoring this, and I have every faith that this is a commitment to this council and this city. So
the Pears family has been committed to the city of Homewood for a very, very long time. I would like to tell you this, though, and this is a point of pride, and I'm digressing, but allow me 45 seconds.
Sure.
Mom was a business owner here in Homewood, owned Homewood Daycare, Homewood Nursery and Daycare. for 40 years on Crescent Avenue, just right up from Watkins Cleaners. Also, in 1975, Mom was appointed president of the Homewood Chamber of Commerce, was the president 2 years in a row during Homewood's 50th, well, it's not a bicentennial, what is it? 50th anniversary of existing, whatever you may call that. So Mom oversaw that party and that celebration, and it was a big time, let me tell you. I remember I was 16 years old. But she was president of the Homewood Chamber of Commerce 2 years running at a time, frankly, when women were not president of civic organizations. She was a real pioneer. She really was. And she does love this city. And she would, she'd be the first to be fussing at me if I didn't get it done.
Okay. We'll allow that. Thank you, Mr. Pars.
Thank you, Mr.
Is there anyone
President.
else who would like to speak to this matter? If there's not, we will close this public hearing. And Ward 4, your choice.
I will say I have been working with Wyatt and Mr. Pears on this since back in, I don't know, November, I guess, when we started dealing with it. And I really will say, I think if you notice, by and large, when we have people who have condemnations against their properties, they very rarely show up.
Sure.
Mr. Pears has been in communication with us the entire time. Having just gone through losing my mom, I know where he was.
Sure.
You don't want to be leaving your ailing mother to come clean up a garage. It's just not proper.
No, I understand.
At that point. I think he is genuinely honest when he says he's going to get it done. I do believe that he will. And I personally will take the responsibility of seeing the process through.
Thank you. So are you making a motion to drop this?
I would make a motion to drop it, yes.
We have a motion from Ms. Smith. Do we have a second? From anyone?
Just to be clear, if we drop it, the thing has to be started all over again. The process would have to be started all over again.
I assume we'd have to go back to the abatement board, Mr. Pugh.
That would be my understanding.
Okay, if that being the case, then let's carry this over. We'll continue to carry this over. We'll carry it over. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay.
So you're going to carry it over to the February 28th meeting?
Yes.
With
25th.
25th, yes, absolutely. Thank you.
with the understanding that we certainly hope to drop it at that point.
Yes.
That's the plan.
That's the
With
point.
the hopes that at that point we can drop it off.
But that's the impetus for you, Mr. Pars, to make sure that it's complete because, okay, thank you. I appreciate it. You have a good evening. All right, next item, 1912-18, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of a variance to the fence ordinance at 1511 Ridge Road, requested by Josh Willens and Mr. Cobb, our BEZ folks. We'll start with an opening of the public hearing. Mr. Cobb. Have we got anyone else here, Mr. Cobb, other than yourself? Okay. If y'all, they're not here? Okay. Okay, if you'll sign in, please, while Mr. Cobb's addressing this.
Okay, the request for fence variance is actually becomes a front yard fence. It's the backyard. The houses, one faces one street, other faces the other one. So they face in two different directions.
Do we have a drawing or a?
Drawing from that other meeting.
We did?
We did.
The builder submitted something.
There's a survey.
That's right, we sure did.
Go give it to Brian. Brian? Is that the right one?
It's not the right one, this is Ridge Road we're looking at.
We're looking at Ridge Road.
This is Richard.
I'm sorry, I was looking at a different agenda where I stood up too quick. Good grief. Okay.
1511 Ridge Road. Do we have anything?
I was looking at the agenda for Raymond. On Ridge, it's a front yard fence. The pictures I had in the other room were of the driveway in the front of the house.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the pictures I showed you earlier in the chambers back there were of the front of that house and going up the driveway. But that's the request, is a front yard fence.
Does Brian have that?
No, he doesn't.
All right, we're going to let you stand right here.
They're on my phone. That's how I was showing them in there.
Can I ask a question? Because I know,
Sure.
and again, I'm going back 2 weeks because we had the meeting originally, the committee meeting
That's correct.
prior. There was also an issue, wasn't there another issue with the fence down by Wellington View, or was that not?
On the backside, yes, ma'am, on the backside is Wellington View Road. And you know, as you approach a road, you're supposed to be, along a road, you're supposed to be 15 feet back from the property line. And that's where Wellington View Road dead ends into the backside of the property that, you know, the big giant piece over there, that's where it is.
Okay, so it's just that would be a variance in terms of the setback.
Because, yeah, setback from the road.
It's along the property line, correct?
Yes, sir. The property line's maybe 5 or 10 feet behind the roadway.
Okay.
All right, if you'll stay close, Mr. Cobb, Ms. Willens, if you want to speak.
Can I ask one more question, Bruce?
Sure.
So this is technically two variances.
Yes, ma'am.
You're requesting a variance for a front yard fence to deal with the front part next to the driveway, and then the setback variance would be a separate one at the back side.
The other one is separate, yes. It's set back from the road.
All right, hang tight. Ms. Willens, I assume?
No, that's the builder.
Oh, you're the builder? Okay.
You're the homeowner.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You're who?
My name's Laura McWayne.
Ms. McWayne, okay.
Josh Willens is my contractor. So originally we were going to build a fence in the front.
Pull the mic down a little bit if you don't mind.
Originally we were going to build a fence in the front where there's a retaining wall along a driveway where it's about like 5 or 6 feet tall, I guess.
It starts knee high and goes up to about 5 feet.
Yeah. But we ended up putting a holly hedge there because he explained to me that there's not supposed to be a fence in front of the house.
Correct.
So it was like a picket fence kind of to the front and to the side along the driveway. So we put a holly hedge there instead, and in the back it's just the property line fence. That's just for security.
Okay,
Sure.
So does that mean you're not requesting the variance for the front yard fence any longer?
Correct.
Okay, so you're just requesting the variance for the back?
Yes.
The back along the property line?
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
much better.
Can I clarify that? I thought bushes had come up in the past as being considered a front fence.
Oh.
I don't think so.
I mean, you can, if you plant them in that position, those were already there.
There were some there. They were half dead. We replaced them with better looking
Would
ones.
that be considered a front yard fence?
No. Well, the day I was up there, some of the pictures I showed you earlier, that's when Graves was up there doing the clearing, the cleaning of all that brush.
Okay.
They cleaned it up real nice up there.
Okay, so the fence is just going to connect to the house now?
There's no connection to the house yet. We're just putting the property line fences in.
Okay.
Just for security. My neighbor had some trouble, so.
Why is that a variance?
Because it's because of the setback from the road at the back.
Oh, okay, I got it, okay, got it, that's right, okay, gotcha.
All right, first, for clarification, does everyone on the council understand what the request is? He says no, which it's fine if anyone says no. That's why I needed you to stay around, Mr. Cobb. Make us understand, please.
The way the ordinance reads is that anytime you have a fence along a roadway, it has to be 15 feet back from the property line. In the past, I've believed that to be so that particularly it happens mostly on a corner lot. She's not a corner lot, but on a corner lot, if you had a fence all the way out to the property line, depending on which way you were facing, it might block the view of traffic coming down the street.
Sure.
And then there's also the issue of does a front yard, your backyard, because the way houses are set, and turn out to be a front yard to your neighbor, like on the corner of, that's Broadway and Forest. We had that issue come up several years ago that with the corner house was put a backyard fence up, he'd be in the front yard of the neighbor. So there's a lot of parameters to look at as to how the houses line up when you get to a street corner.
But back there on that dead end,
I've been over there and looked at it. I didn't see a problem with it.
it's not going to be anybody's way.
No, ma'am. I did go to look at that. And that's where it dead ends to the fence line that goes to the, was it McAfee? Maccabee. What used to be the Maccabee property, yes. It's not a real issue in this case.
And I will say, and this probably doesn't have anything to do with this particular case, but Mike, I'm pretty sure we have said that bushes constitute a fence in certain circumstances.
The definition of fence.
Because I remember a guy in Hollywood trying to put bushes in his front yard or cedars. So this property is very different from that.
Yes, ma'am, it
because
is.
It's elevated and it's different.
And it already had
There was already shrubbery
shrubbery there.
Even if it has been replaced. Okay, so we're just voting on the setback variance at the back of the property on
Wellington View.
Road. Okay.
Did that help you?
I believe so. There were 3 different types of fence.
No, I saw that,
there,
yeah.
So
So
we're
we're
talking
saying
about
the
scrapping
picket
the white
fence,
picket.
yes,
Is
the picket
there
fence
still a
is
black
no.
chain link somewhere?
What type of fence is this going to be, ma'am?
So in the wooded area down the side that leads to the road is a black chain link fence because it's going to be planted up and you won't be able to see it. And then facing the road, we decided to put a nice, like a shadow box wooden fence so it would look better. Wellington View. Yeah.
All right. Now, any other questions of either one of these individuals? Mr. Wright?
What is our hardship exactly? Is it security or what?
Explain.
So my neighbor had a few stories about some things that she's struggling with, that large property right there, and people coming into our backyard. And I have no fence at the moment, and there's like a utility drive kind of there. It's real easy to drive into, back building where I keep like my lawnmower and tools and things. And she had like her grandfather's tools and stuff stolen, and so the fence would kind of hide it from the road a little bit, sort of a out of sight, out of crime sort of thought, and just privacy and security, I guess.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, one more time.
I'm sorry, I just have one more question for whomever wishes to answer it, because I'm trying to picture this in my head, and I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar with the area, the location. So why can't the setback be what our setback requirements are? I'm just trying to understand that part of it.
Right.
Other than a desire to.
It could be anywhere. It's just, do you want to fence your property or you want to back up 15 feet? You know.
Are we talking, I'm sorry I stepped out, are we talking about a rear fence?
Yeah.
It's a rear.
It's not a front
yard,
fence anymore.
Her yard goes from Ridge over the hill to Wellington View on the other side.
So why do we need a variance?
Because when you get to the other side, you come up against Wellington View, and the ordinance says along the roadway, you're 15 feet back.
And there's a existing building there and some mature hardwood trees. And the topography goes sort of like down where the utility drive is and then up again. And it looks like the best fence line to not lose a lot of trees and tie in and make it look nice and tidy is closer to the road than 15 feet back.
And again, we need to reiterate, it is a dead end. There's not a through street, it's a dead end street.
Yeah, you go into the back way into the McAdoo property, what used to be that property.
All right.
So we're saying technically that the property is owned, is part of the property line for the home? That we're talking about extending it closer to the roadway? Is that what we're?
Mr.
You
Cobb?
want to put it down the property line, but the property line, the ordinance says you're supposed to be 15 feet back on the roadside.
Correct.
Okay. And then, so in my opinion, that's always been to keep you from putting a front yard fence on another house or to not block sight distance of a vehicle traveling down the road like at a stop sign. I don't know, Mr. Kendrick, am I off base there? Is that the same?
you're
Okay.
right.
Okay. That's why I've always interpreted it. I look at them to see that it's not going to block traffic. Or in some cases, you might have a corner lot and your next door neighbor's got a driveway there. Well, if you put a privacy fence up, he can't see to get out his driveway.
Sure.
So this is not the case. There's no issues there because it's coming down to the dead end of Wellington View. So it really has no effect on the neighbors.
And we know that it's surveyed and.
It is. I saw the corner out there.
Good.
I have to always go looking for survey corners. That's
All right, 10 of y'all, any other questions for either of these individuals? Good, thank you. Have a seat. Anyone else who would like to, yes, anyone else who would like to speak to this item? If not, we will close this public hearing and comments from the council.
I don't have any comments, but I'll make a motion to approve the variance for the setback variance.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from Ms. Smith, second from Mr. White. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please. Well, go ahead. I'm not railroading you.
I just wanted a little bit of clarification because I know that we've talked about fences and variances and everything before, and I know that we have talked about the front hedges being considered a front yard fence.
Yes.
And it sounded like everybody was not necessarily on the same page with that. And I guess in technicality, we may or may not be violating that right now. I'm just trying to be fair to other people that have already come before council and
We understand.
gone through the same.
Yeah.
So,
We understand, but, you know, and we can agree to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that.
But this variance doesn't have anything to do with that.
but I'm saying in technicality, it kind of does.
No, it really
It's already-
doesn't, because she removed her request for variance for the front yard fence because they replaced the shrubs that were already there. The variance that she was here in front of us for was the variance to the back setback fence. I mean, now, you can argue whether replacing those shrubs and whether that's a front yard fence or not, that's a whole other thing, but the variance she's requesting has to do with the setbacks for the backyard
Okay.
property
I
line.
guess I just feel like it's, just like other people have come before us and
Yeah,
said, we already did this work, basically,
Right.
we apologize, can you please grant us the variance? So I guess I'm just trying to be clear on, you know, stating that whether or not we acknowledge hedges as a front yard fence and whether or not that's gonna continue to spring up and that we're just kind of glossing over it right now.
No, there's no question, this council, and I'm saying this for our audience and anyone else who is listening, this council is adamantly opposed to front yard fences. We are adamantly opposed to front yard fences. You know, whichever way we decide to make a decision on this particular item. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is unanimous, and that is Resolution 1906. Let me now take things out of order. 290119 is a request to appoint Melody Salter as city clerk, requested by myself. Chair would welcome a motion.
Second.
Wait. Stop.
I didn't get that.
Motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. McCluskey. Sorry, the rest of you lose. Being an ex-long-term resident of Ward 3, that's okay.
Mr. Chairman, I did have one question.
Yes.
Do you have any prior experience that you could share with the council to?
Thank you for approving me. I've already resigned from my other position. I still have one child to get to college.
That was pretty good. Yeah, I was going to say both of those comments were pretty compelling. With that, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. And since there are no nays, that is unanimous, and that is Resolution 1907. We do need a resolution, don't we, Mr. Kendrick?
Yes, we're probably,
Thank you.
I'll have one draft.
I know you will. All right, next item. 080119, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of a variance to the fence ordinance at 210 Raymond Drive, requested by Ben Green, Greg Cobb, our BEZ folks, and we will open that public hearing and turn it over to you, Mr. Cobb. Do we have any pictures?
No, sir. This is
I
the one
like
I jumped up for
pictures.
last time.
I like pictures.
I know you do. This is interesting in that it's a front yard fence to Mr. Green, but it's a backyard fence to the house next door. Okay? If that makes any sense?
Yes.
Mr. Green faces Raymond. The other is Salter Road. So if the homeowner at Salter wanted this fence, no problem, except you got to be 8 feet back from the property line on the street side. But if Mr. Green asked for it, it's the front yard fence to him, but it's a backyard fence to the one on Salter, if that makes any sense. So he's not on the corner, he's
Mr.
one
White.
up.
Is the fence that he's proposing, does it meet the setback?
It would have stopped if it stopped 8 feet back from the property line on the roadside, it would.
But do we know if that's what he's planning?
Well, we're going to ask him
Okay.
when he gets up here. But what the point I'm saying is that if the person on Salter Road made the request, no problem. It's just that the fence could be in the same place, it's just a matter of who owns it. As far as us issuing a permit to it.
Right, but Greg, just for clarification, because he's building it and not the neighbor
Correct. Right. Well, you're talking about moving it, whatever. But that's just one of the things trying to explain is that 8 feet back from the property line on the roadside, it's a backyard fence to the Salter property, but it'd be a front yard fence to the Raymond property. That's just the best I can, about as clear as mud, isn't it?
Well, so the variance is because of the, I'll use the word iffiness of who's on first. I mean, really, isn't that
Well, I
what
mean,
you're
it's just,
saying?
it's a front yard fence because he's building it.
I mean,
I'm sorry, what, Mr. Kendrick?
It's whoever's building it.
Right.
Yeah, like I say, if the Salter Road person made the request and stayed 8 feet back, then I would issue them a permit. But so you move it over to the other side of the line, and then I'd be issuing a permit to the house on Raymond, it becomes a front yard fence. So that's really the difference in it.
My question to you is, do we have other situations where we've got double fencing?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
What have we done in the past on that?
Well, it's really between the homeowners.
Well, if the homeowners can't agree, which we've already heard that's the case here, then...
Well, I missed that part of the meeting, but
That's
I was
okay.
back here doing something else.
That's okay.
But it's your call. I don't know. I mean, I know when I moved in the house I'm in now, there were 2 fences 2 feet apart. And you talk about aggravating the clean between, because it grows up between there. Well, I'm about 2 foot wide, so it's kind of hard to get in there.
There aren't
And
currently...
don't say from which direction.
Are there currently 2 fences here? We're asking for the first fence, right?
There's actually part of a fence up there now.
Yeah, but further up.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
But this portion that would require the variance, there's not an existing fence there of any kind. At least not according to the photos I'm looking at.
There's not.
Yeah, okay. Just want to clarify.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Any questions for Mr. Cobb? Anyone else?
I think I'm creating a lot of confusion tonight.
Mr. McCluskey.
Look at this. Is that orange stake, the 8 feet?
If that's on the bank, that is the actual property. Yeah, there's the curve. That's the actual property corner. That's the property corner right there down that street. And so you have to go 8 feet back that direction.
Because of the...
Because of the ordinance, yes.
Right.
The orange one at the bottom is the actual property corner.
Anyone else that want to ask anything of Mr. Cobb?
Is this sitting in the city right away, this pile of garbage?
No, sir. Well, maybe I'm not sure which picture you're looking at.
We're also struggling with the neighbor's compost.
That's on their property. That's on the property of the house on Salter Road.
So that post with the pink flag is not the corner?
No, the corners, if there's another picture that shows the curb line, and you can see the curb line at the very bottom.
I thought that was the corner.
Well,
That's just a line stake. They were marking the line.
And I think Patrick raises a good point, because I don't know how much distance is between that orange stake and the compost bin, because it looks like
It's really close, yes.
So that might not, the fence might not even totally.
Well, Wyatt and I discussed that compost thing is not really a structure to us. If it was a structure, it'd have to be 5 feet over, but it looks like it's like 4 shipping pallets kind of stuck together.
Right.
And it doesn't really qualify with anything that we control in the building department.
Right.
But that could be something disconcerting to us.
Sure.
Mr. Cobb.
Sure.
Could be.
I think Dr. Green would like to come up.
Come on.
All right. Mr. Green, we're going to let you speak into the microphone.
Hey, thanks for hearing me out, guys. I
Sure.
really appreciate you. So first of all, that picture, the perspective is not good. That compost or garbage pile is farther than 8 feet off of the road.
Is it?
Yes, it is. I measured it a couple of months ago. I want to say it was 12 or something around there. So the fence that I am asking for would cover that. And as I mentioned in the meeting earlier, my hardship is essentially due to the fact that my 2-year-old son has an anaphylactic bee allergy that we discovered because he got stung by a bee in the vicinity of that garbage that's there. Now, I understand that a privacy fence may not protect fully against bees stinging him, and that we are I promise, very vigilant about keeping them away from that area. However, I think that it's a good step in our direction, and I think I'm appropriately concerned about my family's well-being. And I would be lying if I didn't say that I also don't want a pile of garbage on the front of my house and the property line either. So, I think that, given the fact that it's a place that could potentially have a fence on that, and we'd move it back so it's fully on our property line, hooking up with a current fence that we already have there, I appreciate you looking into this.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Who would like to ask him any questions? Mr. McCluskey.
Well, I have one question. You said you certainly said that was further than 8 feet away from the road.
Yeah.
But it's not the road.
It's the orange corner.
Right. I don't know the exact number from that corner. I thought it was from the road. I'm sorry. I just didn't understand it.
Just want to make sure you
From just looking at it and what I've looked at, I would be shocked if it was closer than 8 feet from that property marker.
Well, but that would be a mandate, and you understand that. That it would be that or further back. I mean,
yeah, 8.
Well, and then the question.
Oh, that compost on that I drew in. That's not the scale. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That on the survey, that is not the scale. I drew that in on the PDF file.
Ms. Smith?
Well, I mean, I think the question then becomes if the measurement isn't 8 feet, the fence then doesn't do what he wants it to do because it might not cover that entire compost pile to begin with, compost bin to begin with, depending on the distance. Yes.
If I said 8 feet, that's an error.
Okay.
It says 15.
Okay, 15 feet.
Correct.
We just discussed that with the last one.
Yeah.
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 Well, with the Wellington.
The Wellington.
Yeah, that was, you said 15 for that one.
So it's 15 feet from the road, which in that case would be good.
Let's give
Again, I
Mr.
mean,
Cobb.
my point was originally in the meeting, I'm not sure a fence protects from bees.
Well, let's give Mr. Cobb
Yeah.
a second.
Oh, to look that up. It should be 15.
Further.
Yes, it would.
And it wouldn't cover at all.
Yeah, I think you are too. Whether you're talking about 8.
He's looking right now. Mr. Green, I have 15 grandchildren.
What's that?
I'm that ages 12 to 4 months. I'm very sensitive to your situation with your son. I really am.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We are tasked to look for a way to say yes on one side,
Mm-hmm.
and then on another side, there's ordinances, laws that dictate how we do these sort of things. So, and as Mr. Wolverton wisely brought up a little while ago, once we start making exceptions in certain areas, then it's, why didn't we do it for the Smiths 6 months ago or the Joneses 18 months ago? And
I 100% understand, and I can assure you that I've tried to take care of this on my own without bringing it in front of the city council. I really have tried to do this to not waste your time here.
And again, we're sensitive to this. Don't think we don't understand the seriousness of a 2-year-old with this sort of allergy. I mean, this is big time. You know it infinitely better than I do, but I know it enough just as a granddad.
Yeah.
Mr. Cobb, help us out.
I can't find it in there right now. It's not under the definition of fence.
Boo.
I'm getting myself a little confused, but we said 8 feet, what we said a few minutes ago, right?
No, we
We said
15.
15. Well, where did 8 come from here just a minute ago?
You first had mentioned 8.
It was from the property.
We got to go get bread and milk.
8 feet came from the property line. 15 was from the road.
Okay.
So I'm curious, is it the same thing?
No.
Okay.
Because those corners are never in the same place. I mean, corner at your house and corner of my house are not the same distance from the road.
Sure.
Okay, so the fence can come to 15 feet from the roadway.
From
It
the
has to be
corner.
set back from the corner.
of the property, not the roadway.
You just
I
said
mean,
15.
you're going to be amazed at where some of these property corners are.
Well, so I'm concerned that we just granted the last variance 15 from the roadway, not the property line, which it may have been in.
Their property line is probably 10 to 12 feet off the road on the backside of Wellington.
Right, so we're saying it should have been 25 feet from the roadway, potentially, instead of 15.
You got to keep it straight,
I'm
Mr. Cobb.
concerned about that.
I'd love to if I could find it. That's the way that book is written.
I mean,
It's
I
not
just-
under definitions, it's not under fence. It's buried in there somewhere.
Mr. Kendrick, no pressure here, but
I can't tell you. I'd be glad to look at it.
I guess I would like to.
So-
I don't remember.
I would like to ask if
You got it?
I've got the book here.
if the fence ordinance is the way it is having this 8 to 12 feet from the roadway any kind of violation of?
I don't know, but that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with his request for a fence variance right now.
Sure,
I guess
okay.
I would ask that if it, all I want to do is cover that with a
Yeah,
fence.
I
And
do
so
understand.
if I could ask if the variance would include allowing me to cover that going past the 8 or 15 feet from the property line, I would ask for that to be a back/front yard fence. And I would be willing to remove this fence when I leave the property before, I would take it down and leave it. If she moves the garbage, I would be willing to move this. I only want to protect my family. That's it. I don't care about anything else. I mean, I don't like the way it looks. I'm not going to lie to you, but I only want to do that.
So
I
consider.
think that's fair.
Yeah, so considering that proffer,
think
and,
that's fair.
you're not going to let them build a fence that doesn't meet our guidelines anyway, so you don't have to specifically know what they are anyway, because you're going to issue the permit for it, right?
Right.
So, just because you can't quote it tonight, it's okay, I think.
But he's asking for even a variance to what's allowable.
Right, but if he could build up to that, based on what we pass, Greg keeps him in check to get the permit when he gets the permit, so he doesn't build beyond that, right?
Yes.
But I believe he just asked if he could build beyond it, even if it is clarified.
I see what you're saying.
Mr. President?
yes.
Would it be worth
It's in that book somewhere, though.
maybe carrying this over and allow, and I don't know, Mr. Cook to visit the site and see if the compost heap is in violation of any of our ordinances? Just looking at it, it's hard to believe it's not.
He's been to my property probably about 5 to 6 times about
Really?
this. When she's my neighbor has called him when we were building, when we were doing some landscaping work before, and he came out to inspect it then. And then when the compost heap was built, I called him and Mr. Cobb actually also to try to get this figured out, because I wanted it moved off of the property line and basically just taken away. But so he's been out and inspected it, and he said essentially that while it's not the prettiest thing, I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing, it's not against any codes or anything for the town, because it's not a structure, so it doesn't have to be. I'm sorry,
Well,
I don't mean to.
No, you got it right, you got it right. We struggle with this in the offices to really how to control it, and couldn't come up with anything concrete because it's so small.
Mr. Green, I know what you want, obviously, you and your significant other, but let's follow Mr. Tames's a little further. Let's look at options and possibilities, and it may even entail an ordinance that doesn't yet exist. Who says things have to be grandfathered? But I do think that we need to do some more research on this. And
Can I ask
Mr.
one?
White?
Can we figure out where the compost is set back from the road?
Can you help us with that, Mr. Cobb?
Sure.
Great.
I can measure that from the road, or from the
Where it is on the property
line. I mean,
If it's sitting on the property line, does it have to be set back from the property line?
if it were big enough for us to call it a structure, it would only have to
Well,
be
I
5 feet
understand.
away.
What we need to
So moving
do,
it 5 feet, I don't think gains you anything.
Would it classify as a violation of rubbish or litter in the yard?
we need to look at that also. Mr. Green, rather than say no, give us some time to look at some options and possibilities here, okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate it, sir. We'll leave this open, and we'll go forward, okay? Is there anyone else here now who would like to speak to this item? Okay. 090119, public hearing set for tonight at 6 p.m. for consideration of the sign ordinance at 1712 28th Avenue South, requested by Mr. Tedrow and Greg Cobb. We will open the, Mr. Cobb. The public hearing is open.
Which, I was talking to them, sir.
This is 090119, the public hearing for the sign ordinance at Mr. Tedrow's establishment.
Oh, okay, okay. This is a simple request for a secondary attached sign. It's not oversized. It meets our ordinance other than it's a secondary sign, so that's what it is. Second attached sign.
Okay. We're talking about that sign times two? Yes. Okay, Mr. Tedrow, have you signed? Time out, Mr. Tedrow, my friend. Have you signed in yet?
He signed in at the committee meeting.
I know, but, left-handed people are a little confused about these things, since I am.
You left-handed?
Very. I had to have my bass guitar restrung for that very reason. Mr. Tedrow, speaking to the mic.
Hello, Mayor. I would like to have permission and your blessings to put a sign like this on the other side of the building so that you can see my business from both sides of 28th Avenue South.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Tedrow?
It's a nice sign. It is. It is.
My goodness.
It does meet the size requirement?
Yes, ma'am. I can't tell you what size it is off the top of my head, but when he got the first permit, I checked it.
And it was fine? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
There we go.
All right. If there are no questions, please have a seat, both of y'all. Anyone else who would like to speak to this matter, for or against, please come forward. There being none, we will close this public hearing and welcome comments or motions from the council.
Second.
Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Ms. Smith. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so this passes 10-1, and this is Resolution 1908. And we'll move on to 100119, public hearing set for February 11th, 2019 at 6 p.m. for consideration to rezone property at 510 Tamworth Lane from an NPD to a C4B, which is high-rise office / commercial district. The applicant and owner is AUM Homewood LLC for the purpose to incorporate a small portion of the property into an adjacent larger parcel, under the same ownership for the use in conjunction with a planned development of a new hotel. The Planning Commission has a unanimous vote of 7-0 for a favorable recommendation requested by Mr. Pugh, and we will continue this public hearing until February 11th. All right, thank you. Next item is 2012-18, request for consideration to contest the election results requested by myself. Chair would welcome a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion from Mr. White. I'm sorry, what?
You need to name whoever you're on.
I think we actually already did.
Okay.
I think we did in the last one, but just to make sure Barry Ragsdale was the attorney that we authorized.
Great. So we have a motion from Mr. White, second from Ms. Andrus. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any other?
I need to abstain.
Okay.
Yes, I need to abstain just for the record that Mr. Ragsdale is a member of my law firm. So
Good. Thank you.
I'm abstaining as well, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have an 803 vote at this point. Thank you. And that is Resolution 1909. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. 040119, request for consideration of budget amendments requested by Mr. Burgett, our finance director. any questions or comments on that? If there are not, Chair would welcome a motion in a second.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, we did meet on this tonight.
Yes.
At 5 and at 5 o'clock and voted 5-0 to approve the budget amendments.
Thank you. So that is our motion. We have a motion from Finance. Any other comments on this? Questions? There being none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Since there are none opposed, this is Resolution 1910, and it is approved. All right, 050119, request for consideration of amending the fiscal year 1819 budget for prior year encumbrances. Mr. Burgett, a report from Finance. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met and voted 5-0 to approve the encumbrances.
All right, so again, we have a motion from Finance. Do we have any questions or comments? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is 1911, and we move on. 060119, request for consideration of declaring the following vehicle surplus. It's a 2006 Ford 500. Last six on the serial number is 116721. Requested by Lieutenant Ditcock and Chief Ross. We'll start with a first reading. Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, sir. This ordinance declares certain personal property of the city surplus. It's hereby established and declared that the following described personal property are no longer needed for public or municipal purposes. It describes the 2006 Ford 500, Section 2, that the mayor and clerk will be authorized and directed to dispose of the property by auction to the highest bidder.
All right, thank you, sir. Chair would welcome motion and a second for unanimous consent. I'm sorry, hold on. Motion by Mr. Gwaltney, second by Mr. McCluskey. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thames?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Temporarily absent.
Oh, sorry. Mr. McCluskey?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andreas?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So this is ordinance 2729, and the chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval. All right, motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Mr. Gwaltney. Okay, roll call, please, ma'am.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thames?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
And Mr. Wolverton still out. Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andreas?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So 2729 is passed unanimously. All right, bear with me. All right, next item is 131218, request for consideration for the adoption of a city records retention policy, requested by Mr. Burgett and carried over from 114. This is a report from
Special Issues.
Special Issues, Ms. Smith.
Yes, committee met right before council and discussed the need to be able to destroy documents that we have in storage at Iron Mountain that have been there for upwards of 15 years at least. And the motion was made to approve this by Mr. Higginbotham, seconded by Mr. Gwaltney, and the committee voted 5-0 to recommend approval.
Good. So Special Issues has made this motion. Chair would welcome, let's see, we've got the motion, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. That is 10-0. Ms. Salter. Okay, 130119, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of a variance to the sign ordinance at 1651 Independence Drive, requested by Mr. Greg Cobb. We'll begin by opening the public hearing. Mr. Cobb.
This is a multi-tenant building with several tenants wanting their name on the building and an attached sign. What's allowed in that district is attached sign or a monument sign, maximum 6 foot in height and maximum 50 square feet. That's per side on a monument type sign. And okay, there's some examples of that Mr. Brandt brought with us. for how the signs might lay out. It's a two-story building. We've got the floor plan of the bottom. I didn't do both the floor plans, but it is chopped into individual suites. And that's the bottom floor right there. And we didn't put the top floor on there, but the rest are, there's an overall picture of the building where you'd see the signs for each tenant, and they would be given a dimension. And not knowing what the tenants would be, the plan Mr. Brandt has laid out was to put a, what'd you call it? What'd you call the plan?
A master sign plan.
Yes,
Master sign
would
plan
you
for
sign
the
that
building.
again, please? Yeah.
The intent being that if you approve the master sign plan, and rather than come back every time a tenant changes or every, the signs, we know that these are the allowable signs and allowable sizes to go on, and they would change however the tenants change out. That's
Multiple signs, but always within the size.
I'll let him tell us how many square feet's on that sign, but the idea being rather than come to the council 4 times, and again, every time they change, because that's the way our ordinance works. If you get a variance on a sign and that guy moves out, well, you don't keep the sign, it goes with you. So this plan is just to come to some type of agreement of what could be done without reappearing in front of the council. So,
Mr. Cobb, can you repeat what you said about you can have one sign on the building and then?
you're allowed, the way the ordinance is written, you're allowed 1 attached sign per building. Okay?
But also allow.
Also a monument sign. In this particular district, is sign District 1, the height is 6 feet, and you get something like, I don't know, 30 square feet plus an extra foot for every 1,000 square foot of lot area. So when you go through all those calculations, you get an extra square foot for every 1,000 square feet of lot area with a maximum of 50. Well, they're almost 2 acres. It's an odd shaped piece, but it's about 2 acres, about 90,000 square feet. So they would max out at 50 square feet. But in this district, the monument sign's only 6 feet high. So you'd be wide. You'd be 6 by 9 or whatever that calculates out to be, close to that.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Cobb? Okay. Thank you. And you are?
I'm David Brandt with Favorite Services.
Yes, Mr. Brandt.
I represent the owner of the building and the management group. My client actually was going to be here tonight, and there was some sort of
snafu.
Well, it was an elevator drop in Vestavia, is what I was told. It sounds like a big deal. So essentially, Greg,
you got my attention.
Well, no, she wasn't in there, fortunately. Greg did a great job summarizing what I'm trying to do. It's essentially, it's a set of rules and guidelines that just allows, it with regards to number of signs, and placement. Obviously, the signs are not all going to be the exact same shape. They're not going to be these colors that you're seeing, but it's just basically a way to simplify the rules for signage in a multi-tenant building. I look at like a strip center. Obviously, it's an apples and oranges comparison in terms of the type of building, but it's still the same in the sense that it's one building, each with multiple tenants. They're all getting a sign. This is the same principle. They just are going to eventually, one by one, because there are only but 2 tenants in the building now, they're all going to eventually want a sign on the building. And so the idea was to create this do this one-time exercise. The city of Homewood would be the stewards of this document, and Greg and his staff would basically be the ones to cross-reference some tenant sign application with the master plan and say, yes, this is in conformity with it, and would therefore be able to sort of simplify the permitting process and handle it that way. The multi-tenant sign is not in existence now, but that would be another way to supplement the proposed building signage for the tenants in this building. And if there was any change to this configuration, to this plan that y'all are seeing, then I would have to come back before council to get it amended.
Mr. Brandt, I have a question for you. Is there a capped or a maximum number of tenants for this particular building that you see?
You know, I don't know. I mean, right now, it looks as though, well, there's me. It looks as though there could be potential for more, but the ownership wouldn't make me go through all this if they had plans of changing this anytime soon. I thought about that too, and I don't think that there would be any change to the number of tenants. Otherwise, it would, you know, my time's billable. They would just basically be wasting their time for me doing this. So I think as it is now, things are going to stay put.
Well, how many are there now?
5.
5. Okay, good.
Mr. Limbaugh, in all fairness, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, not this particular one, but another one, where we were told that there was no more possible build out in that building either, and we had that come up.
And I'm not saying, that's fair, and I'm not saying, I can't predict the future. I don't know how that's going to work. And that's why I'm leaving it on the table that if there's a change, then we come back and we change it. But, you know, one of the big differences between that the one Lakeshore, we all know the one we're talking about, and this one is that monstrosity of a sign that's in the front of the building, and that certainly makes it hard for us to look at anything, to look beyond that. Not just that sign, but the sign on the adjacent side. This is more of a clean slate type of situation, where these signs don't exist. I believe tenant 1, well, it's not there anymore, but tenant 1 does have their sign.
Well, I would say to you that if we moved in this direction, and only if we move in this direction, we can always cap the number of signs that it would be, so that it can't be.
Understood, understood.
Yes, Mr. Jones. And by the way, when we close the public hearing, I'll get a report from Special Issues. Ms. Smith, go ahead.
But my comment is we wrote the ordinance like we did really for a reason. We wanted one sign on the building to identify the building, and we wanted a monument sign to identify who is in the building. And when I travel around the country and I see professional office buildings, that's the way the configuration is. You have a nice monument sign to identify who's in the building. This does not look professional, in my opinion. I know you said the colors don't really mean anything, but it just doesn't look professional to me at all. And so that's the reason we wrote the ordinance as we did. So that's just really my only comment. And
well, the ordinance, I mean, I think there's a little inconsistency there with the way the ordinance is written because, I mean, a multi-tenant shopping center is one building, right? And all those businesses are having signs on their storefronts. I'm not trying to use that as my one and only argument to be allowed this, but it seems like there are some similarities there. And so I would ask, you know, what are the differences really?
Mr. Gwaltney.
So, Mr. Brandt, I appreciate the hard work you put into this package. This is a good, you know, representation of what it will look like and letting us know. I will say the monument sign does look very good. I think that's what we're aiming for in the city of Homewood. And I understand that you're trying to future-proof this, but ultimately I don't see those signs on the building being the wayfinding sign for someone that pulls in there. When they pull up, according to our ordinance, can you not put on the glass by the door their signage or with their hours? Because when someone pulls up, they're not going to be driving their car through the parking lot and doing this to look up on the building to find it. So I think the ultimate way would be less past the monument sign, in my opinion, and then the attached signs on the building, just they have to go away in lieu of a sign on the glass because they don't look like what we want for a office building.
All right. Well, I respect that. I mean, there is a tenant who currently does have their sign on the building, and you know, they're the one and only tenant who's going to have a sign on that building. The one and only business, commercial business, that's going to have a sign on that building. All the other tenants, when it comes time for them to sign their lease and they're told that they can't have a sign, I'm just wondering how that conversation is going to go, because it seems as though as a commercial business you would want a sign. And
they'll get one on the
I certainly am not. I'm certainly not in the business of trying to see how many signs I can put up on a building for how much money I can make. That's really not. That's not the direction I or my company goes. You know, this is. You know, I'm playing devil's advocate with a tenant. You know.
And I believe the property owner would be the one to make that decision based off of, you know, you drive downtown and you see law firms that have one law firm name on them because they're the biggest and they take up the most room or they're the most important or whatever it may be, and then everybody else that's in that building has their name on you know, the directory or whatever it may be. So it's up to that, it's not up to you whose sign stays on that, you know, on the big part of the building. It's up to the property, and that's their choice to make with
That's part of,
that they have come in.
that's part of their lease.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Well, this is part of their lease. This is what, this document is part of, you know, is a sales tool for the property owner, that, you know,
But it hasn't been approved,
I'm
right?
saying, upon your approval.
It's not, so it's not part of the sales process because it's not approved by the council.
Well, it's kind of like, welcome to the building, welcome to the city of Homewood. You can't have a sign, but welcome. I mean, that's.
Any lease negotiation involves signage, and it sounds like this property owner may have already given away his one sign to a current tenant and has found himself sort of boxed in with future tenants. I agree with some of the other comments. That's what monument signs are for. And I haven't seen the building since D1 moved out. I don't know who the tenant is that has the current sign.
It's a dermatology group.
Okay. Well, you know, the fact of the matter is, if the landlord maybe put a little forethought into it, he wouldn't be in this position. Because as much as we probably don't enjoy listening to sign variances, we do, and it's not the end of the world for the property owner to come back as each lease is signed pending some sort of sign agreement. We're willing to do that. Not that they're going to get it, but that's what we're here for.
Well, and I tend to agree with Councilmember Jones. The quality has a lot to do with this, and the only way we can validate our feelings on the quality, as Mr. Thames just pointed out, is to look at them one at a time, and you know, we're willing to do that. But with that, any
Mr.
other
President,
questions for the
just
yes.
one comment, and with a
Sure, Mayor.
stipulation. I went to Renew Dermatology the other day, and you don't see it. I mean, I drove around forever. The monument sign may look great, but it's a huge retaining wall as you go up around it. And I stayed up. I tried to go in the oral surgeon's office for I don't know how long, before I realized it was back down the hill and up in there. And when you go up in there, there's literally nothing up there.
So you're saying there's extenuating circumstances, Mayor?
I don't know, but it's not like it's on 18th Street.
Okay.
But
Any
when
other
you
questions?
pull up in there, it's just a long building of just doors.
Well, just
Mr. Jones.
And I mean, and in that case, Mayor, I mean, the mayor brings up a good point. That's what the property owner needs to come up with, is a plan to direct people there. And that either being a directional sign by the street to where you're going up there so that you can direct your customers, patients, whatever, some type of plan, as opposed to just putting up signs all over the building. I don't know.
Well, you know,
something mainly to actually get them into the property.
Right.
Now, you know, your definition of plan and mine are similar in some ways and different in others. This is a plan. This is a signed master plan. I modeled this off of what, obviously it's not the city of Birmingham, but I modeled this off of what the city of Birmingham design review folks do. On a multi-tenant building such as this, they want me to roll out a plan. And, you know, it dawned on me in this situation, even on that one Lakeshore Drive building, that, you know, why not introduce that here as a way to, you know, ultimately save time and create consistency and create a set of rules. And yes, they'll come back every time. If you'd rather it that way, that's fine. This was a way to try and create a situation that we could all anticipate on the front end, and not have to have your door darkened with another company asking for a variance every time someone moves into the building. Now, what I didn't put in this ordinance, and please let me know if this would make this in any way more digestible, the square footage allowed by code for a building sign in Homewood is not to exceed 50 square feet. Now, looking here at my drawings, you see the rectangles that are on the building. The reality is, I don't think that any one of those is actually 50 square feet, and in fact, to put a sign that's actually a full, if you drew an imaginary box, let's say, for example, a 5 by 10 on a building like this, that would be overpowering. If there was some way where, I'm not trying to spit out numbers right now, but if I were to revisit this with something a little bit more specific as to not just the location of the sign and the number of signs, but maybe some sort of consistent construction from location to location and some sort of maximum, instead of saying not to exceed 50 square feet, maybe we could get a little more specific with those dimensions. Something, in other words, maybe something a little more understated. I think one of the purposes of these signs, and someone mentioned it at special issues, and I don't disagree with it, is that you're not going to see this from 31. I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to see these signs for 31. If the point of this sign is to say, welcome to the business, you've arrived, this is the entrance you come in through, maybe there's a way to develop a sign plan wherein each sign is a little less or a little more understated than, say, for example, big set of channel letters on a raceway, something that screams retail, something that you see in a strip mall. For example, could we do some sort of, panel per business with a consistent color scheme that would, of course, be approved by council? So,
Mr. Brandt, I'm rapidly thinking that there's two options here. We can vote on this tonight, and I'm not sure that it'll go well, or from your end, I mean, it'll go well fine from our end, but or you can we can keep this public hearing open, and you can go back to the drawing board.
I have a question. The monument sign that's in the packet here, and it's located there where the star is.
Yeah.
Is there a monument sign there now?
No, there's nothing there.
See, that would have curbed your question about how to get in there. In the simple fact that as soon as you pull up around that retaining wall, you've got a nice monument sign that tells you where that is. So just point that out.
I'll give you the opportunity to come back with something in 2 weeks.
I mean, if I may, I would like to at least take another swing at that with maybe a bit more concise.
I think that's fair for you and fair for us as well. So is there anyone else who wants to speak to this? I don't think so. So we'll leave this open and we'll carry this over. Thank you
all very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right, committee referral agenda. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Thames, second from Mr. Higginbotham.
Mr. President, I have a question for you on the referral agenda, and Greg Cobb, Mr. Cobb, I need you on this as well. I have an item on here that is for a resolution to support the ALDOT agreement, and I'm hearing from you tonight that I think what I needed to ask was the mayor, approval for the mayor to sign. I was referring this to committee.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I have that with me. Mr. Kendrick reviewed it probably 3 weeks ago. It's for us to take over the maintenance of the traffic signals down there at Brookwood, which I don't understand because we already do that. Our traffic department's been doing those as long as I've been here. But we take care of the traffic signals from Mountain Brook all the way.
Well, they're going to also add pedestrian lights.
You're talking about 1801-19, Ms. Andrews?
That's right.
My question, crosswalk. We got to put in a crosswalk with lights and everything there also for the project that is the Rumson Road Sidewalk Project.
Correct.
And the Shades Creek Greenway Project.
Right. So the question I had was, does this need, what I had, when we talked via email or text, I had this referring to public safety, but I'm hearing you say tonight earlier that we really could just have the mayor sign it.
If we could do unanimous consent and vote it tonight, I do have it with me.
It doesn't have unanimous consent.
It doesn't have to? Okay. To move the project along.
You're right.
And we're already deep in the design phase.
Yes.
They're down to final approval. We need this document next.
Mr. President, could I pull that off the referral agenda and have it standalone?
Well, that's an amendment to the amendment agenda.
Yeah, okay.
But you can certainly make a motion for that to be the case.
Thank you. I move.
Motion for Ms. Andrews, second for Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we'll take it as an item.
Thank you, Mr. President.
180119, request for consideration for a resolution in support of ALDOT agreement for the Lakeshore Crosswalk at Marriott. Does this also need to be an agreement for the mayor to sign this or not?
Yes, the resolution authorized the mayor to sign.
Okay, good.
All the agreements are attached to the resolution.
Good, good, good. Okay. So requested by Ms. Andrus. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Andrus, second from Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, please say aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye. Any opposed? That is Resolution 1913, and we'll move on.
Hold on, Mr.
14? Okay.
President Limbaugh.
No, I thought, okay, it was 13, 12, 18, 12, 19, 12.
You may be right, I'm sorry.
Okay, and this is 1913. No problem, not trying to argue.
I'm sorry, President Limbaugh.
Yes.
There was one additional committee referral item that we talked about, committee referral agenda item that we talked about in committees to add the stop signs at.
It's on there.
Oh,
It's
is?
on there.
Oh, I'm
We've
sorry.
already added that. No
Oh,
problem.
that's right. We added it as the amended.
We
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah.
That was one of the 9
Right.
that I once thought was 10. No problem. We're moving on to other new business. 220119.
I'm sorry, on the referral agenda, did y'all vote on that with Tane and Higginbotham? That's what Ms. Andrews, did y'all actually vote on that? We did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we not? I'm sorry. Thank you. Keep me straight.
I had Tane and Higginbotham, but that's when Ms. Andrews moved that item off. I didn't know whether y'all actually voted on it.
Okay, we didn't vote to move it off. I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that's moving it off. Now, and the other vote is yes. Now that it's moved off, all in favor of.
Oh, you need a motion.
Yeah, well, we had Ms. Andrus. All right. Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. There we go. We're done. No problem. Other new business. 220119, request for consideration of adoption of resolution placing a lien on the property located at 1801 Kensington Road. We're not going to read parcel numbers. For the cost of abatement in the amount of $1,089.36 because this property was declared a public nuisance April 9th, 2018 with Resolution 1893, requested by Mr. Cook and Mr. Burgett. Chair would welcome a motion and a second.
Can I ask a question, Mr. President?
Sure.
Do we know, have we been doing this for the other condemned properties once they are, and I've just been missing it? Or?
We should have,
Okay.
whether we did or not. I
We'll
don't
do a
know.
better
We've
job.
done it previously.
Okay. But this is just a part of the process that we're supposed to be doing?
Yes, sir. You
This is
you
a
have to
public
assess the
nuisance.
property
Correct.
in order to collect the
Yes,
lien.
and to straighten it
No
out
problem.
was
Okay.
$1,089.
Right, this is,
Yeah.
there was nuisance charges before there was the content.
If I'm not mistaken, hasn't this property come up more recently than?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This was
As
the
well?
nuisance. It was a nuisance before it was.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you have a report from the building inspection, and that's what your assessment should be based on.
And I don't think that it makes any difference, but it appears that the property is in foreclosure right now as well.
I understand.
For the record.
Well, we'll get paid if we record our lien, and we won't if we don't.
Real simple. I'm sorry. Help me. Did I get a motion in a second?
You did not. I move to approve this.
Okay. Motion by Mr. White, second by Ms. Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that is Resolution 1914.
Quick question.
Sure.
This and the next one, where's the money coming from?
We've already spent it.
Oh, okay, so we're just,
This is what we've spent.
procedurally, we've already spent it. Okay,
Yes, sir. You
perfect,
authorize that when you condemn the property.
perfect, thank you.
230119, request for consideration.
But you've already authorized.
These two items were
That
for
was my-
weed, liens, and for removal of trash and weeds at the property. And Scott Cook assessed the cost of the city removing the items and doing the weed cleans to the
That's what he was just saying.
parcel to the property. And he based it on the labor expense that was charged by the city.
I know, but I'm just wondering what line item that comes out of.
Can we do that? Can we?
It will go into the general fund is miscellaneous revenue.
But it was expensed from
We're,
It was paid out of sanitation street salaries.
We have-
Different salary lines.
We have, for demolition, we have a separate line item. This is liens,
Okay.
or this is
Weeds
weeds
and
and trash.
thank you.
All right, good. Now, moving on. Hold on just a second. I'm a little confused.
We did.
But I'm going to get it straightened out. Here we go. 230119, request for consideration of adoption of resolution placing a lien on the property located at 1117 Hardwick Lane for the cost of abatement in the amount of $1,724.32. This property was declared a public nuisance on August 27, 2018, Resolution 1894. This is from Mr. Cook, Mr. Burgett. Chair would welcome a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Higginbotham. Second from Mr. Wolverton. Thank you, sir. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. We'll move on to 240119, request for consideration to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Alabama Historical Commission to establish Homewood as a certified local government. This is requested by the Historical Preservation Commission and Ms. Smith. Do we have a report from a committee on this?
We don't, because they are up against a deadline, which is coming up on February 1st, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So they opted to come to council and explain this to us, which is the reason I sent the memo that Brittany created, just to kind of go ahead and pre-address some of the concerns that people had. And then they're here, obviously, to answer questions about the process.
All right. Well, A, forgive me for having y'all wait this long. B, I mean, this was long. One of y'all, we would love to have you come speak to us on this matter. So come. And tell us who you are. Well, please sign in, yes. It's a good thing.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brittany Foley. I am representing the Homewood Historic Commission tonight in this request that we participate in the Certified Local Government Program. And just to give a brief description, what it is it's a federal grant program, and it's facilitated by the National Park Service, and they give funds to our State Historic Preservation Office, which is the Alabama Historical Commission. And they have a certain percentage of their operating budget, which they give to commissions that they certify, which is what they call certified local government. And what these funds cover are, they allow commissions, historic commissions, to have funds to look at urban surveys. They allow us to have funds for training, preservation plan development, pre-development services such as rehabilitation plans, specifications, structural reports, and feasibility studies for properties. Education, it could go to school programs or public education exhibits, and then any professional staffing support services. And the way these grants work is they do when I talked to them today, they said that now they're operating where it's a 40-60 match. So if we put a percentage, or we put up our operating budget for the year, then they'll match that at 60%, as long as we follow their guidelines and don't misuse their funds, and we use them for these eligible project categories. And that marries up to, these are more modest grants. They're usually only typically around $10,000. If there's any more than that, it'd have to be a very special circumstance, and we would have to come to council and ask for that to be approved for those resources. So what we're asking for today is just approval to apply to participate in this program. We don't have right now a grant application in the works. We're just trying to become a certified local government.
Good.
Brittany,
Questions?
Brittany, can you tell the council what y'all's y'all's allocation was for last year, y'all's commission allocation?
Last year was $5,000.
$5,000.
And then we did not use $5,000 from the year beforehand, but we had some services that we were working with Fred Communications that part of that was being
Right,
allocated.
y'all encumbered those funds to the.
But it's about $5,000.
Okay.
So that opens up a lot of resources, and part of that too is that the state would have to also give us technical assistance. So that alleviates some specialty consultant fees that we would have to have if we wanted to go and, let's say we were looking at a church in Rosedale that was in an underserved community but significant to the community, and we could help them create a structural assessment and work with the state, and then they could go out and use that and then, get that service. But we could be a resource to them. So projects like that, we're really interested in being a resource to the community, and those funds would really help.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. President,
Yes,
question.
Mr. Wright.
So just to make sure I understand, so if you have your $5,000 budget and you put it towards the grant program, you're essentially going to get matching and then some, 60%, I think you said.
Right, that's correct.
So, and then that's just going to increase the size of your budget, and you're okay with carrying out your services in a manner that's consistent with the grant program?
Yes, that's correct. And I should mention too that in certain circumstances, if you have certain professionals on the commission and an attorney, so we have an attorney on our commission, if we set out and say that she's devoting this amount of time to write an ordinance or whatever, then we can put that towards as part of our contribution, because it's an in-kind service, not necessarily like literal monetary
So
funds.
there are ways to even increase it even more?
In that way, it's only 40-60. We can't get any more than 60%, but yes, that's right.
Okay. And if you needed to or felt compelled to ask for more, you'd obviously, other than your budget allocation. So this wouldn't ostensibly change any more financial commitment on the part of the city?
No, it's not. They're federal grant money. It doesn't come out of any city tax base. And then beyond our operating budget, we would need to come before you if there's a special circumstance that would.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Higginbotham.
It's more of a comment than a question. The Ward 2 rep, Will Womack, sent me some information about this quite a while ago, and then your information was most helpful in helping to flesh out the bigger program. I simply want to say I commend the commission for taking this step. I think this is a great way for you to be able to leverage more funding and do some more substantive programming in our community. And I'd love to see more of that from our boards and commissions, real activity that's producing some positive results. So I commend you for it, my personal opinion.
We appreciate that.
Okay, again, we're pleased. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mr. President?
Yes?
I'm
sorry.
Sorry. I thought yes, said proceed. I was looking at the agreement this evening, and just now saw it this evening, the exhibit that's attached to the resolution. It seems a little more in depth. Can we have some time to review this? There were some aspects to it that I don't know anything about, and just want to be able to talk to our attorney and research a little bit more about what all the city exactly would be signing up for.
I understood there's a deadline on this.
There is. We need
Friday.
What does the deadline mean?
There's a certain allocation of funds every year, and then if you're a certified local government by a certain deadline, then you can apply for those grants. And now the state is willing to work with us, because they know that this has been in the works for a while, where we've been trying to work with them to do this, and so they know that this is important to us. We did send the agreement to Mike, but I understand that you guys need to be able to look at that, and I want you all to feel comfortable. We all want you guys to feel comfortable with what you're signing. So I would think that I could talk with the Historic Commission and at the state and see if maybe there's a way that we can have some flexibility.
I would just feel a little more comfortable if we had a week to review it.
Sure.
maybe get an opinion from our attorney and just have the opportunity to review it ourselves.
Yeah, sure.
If you feel comfortable that the state is willing to work with you in that regard.
I think how would that work? If you guys had a week, would we be pushed to the next city council meeting?
Well, it'd need to be 2 weeks, because we'll meet again in 2 weeks.
We'll meet February 11th.
February
Ultimately,
11th.
that would have to be the,
Okay.
but if we can get these questions answered and everyone's on the same page, then we can get you a resolution that
Okay.
night.
I think that sounds good,
Okay,
and I'll let the state know.
Then what we'll do, ma'am, is we will carry this over until February 11th, okay?
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Again, please forgive me. Thank you very much. All right, 250119, request for consideration of approval for vouchers from the period of January 14th, 2019 through January 27th, 2019. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright.
Oh, was it my turn?
Mr. Wright.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Robert. Answered the questions. Actually, pretty clean batch of receipts. So I would ask for the receipts for the period of January 14 through January 27, 2019 be approved.
All right, so we have a motion from Mr. Wright and a second from Mr. Higginbotham. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that is Resolution 1916. Our last item, 260119, request for consideration to authorize the mayor to sign a contract for fiber optics franchise with capital MCIMETRO, Access Transmission Services Corp., doing business as Verizon Access Transmission Services, requested by myself. First reading, Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, there's an ordinance granting a fiber optics franchise to MCI Metro Access Transmission Services, DBA Verizon Access, whereas the city has reserved the right to control the highways and streets and public places and requires city's consent prior to using such highways, public places, whereas the state law confers to the city certain rights and requirements for a franchise and permission to use the public right-of-way, whereas a franchisee has requested from the city a franchise to use the streets and public ways to conduct business as a fiber-based communication service provider, and whereas the city and the franchisee have negotiated franchise agreement which is attached to Exhibit A and made a part hereof. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council as follows. City Council does by the adoption of resolution grant the franchisee a franchise pursuant to the terms, conditions, and requirements set out in the franchise agreement attached to Exhibit A. 2, that pursuant to laws of the state of Alabama, the city grants the franchisee a franchise for a period of 10 years. 3, that the franchisee by accepting the franchise agrees that will, upon making excavations, comply with all local laws, state and federal local laws relating to the remediation of such work. Section 4, that the rights, privileges, and authority and consents granted may be exercised by the franchisee, but not by his successors without the prior approval of the city, pursuant to the provisions of Exhibit A, and that when this ordinance has been accepted by the franchisee, it constitutes a franchise agreement between the city and the franchisee, which acceptance shall be acknowledged by the execution of the franchise agreement attached to Exhibit A.
Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent. Motion from Mr. Thames, second from Mr. McCluskey. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thames?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So this will be ordinance 2730. The chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Smith, second from Mr. Wright. Roll call.
Mr. Gwaltney? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Thames?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton? Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So then we come to the end of our agenda. Mayor, we would love to hear what you have to say. We're not saying the S word.
Thank you. Well, as I understand it, you've had an amended agenda?
Yes, I've never had that before.
Well, I was late coming in, doing some interviews, so could we have an amended agenda?
Yeah.
Is it too late to put something on?
Yes.
I really do need to add a couple of things, just simply to go to committee. You got to help me out here. I'll give you a ride home.
Are they big, long debates about sign ordinances? That'd be great.
And it wouldn't be the first time he's given me a ride home. It's good.
Well, no, not in the hearse now.
35 years.
How do I respond to that?
Oh, mercy. Okay, good. So I would ask y'all to add to the agenda request to consider renewing our consultant, Charles Zanatti's contract.
Yes.
And then he also wants to, I don't know if you want to do this just a committee as a whole or finance, but Mr. Jones, I think he wants to discuss with y'all the energy insurance and I wrote it down. Energy, insurance, and workers' comp.
Well,
Was
by
that
all
in
means,
finance,
let's
or-
make that a committee committee referral, and yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, could,
Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Go.
Thank y'all.
It's going to be item 300119.
And then, of course, the Historical Commission was just up, and they asked, I really think it's the role of the council to appoint the at-large. Okay. So if the at-large position's mine to do, I'd like to appoint Mr. Randall Minor to the at-large position. And then I think Jake Collins also, his term has expired.
Oh, boy.
And he would like to be reappointed to the at-large position.
Well, let's knock it out. Okay, motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, say aye. Aye. There you go.
Thank y'all for being flexible with me on this. And then just way of announcements, Taste of Homewood this Thursday, 5:30 to 8, Rosewood Hall. Hope to see everyone there. And then as far as the weather for tonight, just a brief update. We'll have both fleet maintenance and streets coming in about 10 o'clock tonight. They'll stay through the night. We'll just be monitoring, see what we need to do. City Hall's closed tomorrow. Schools is already announced as well, so we'll have our phones. If you need anything, give me or JJ1 a call, and we'll help you any way you can. Stay safe, stay warm. Thank you, Mr.
sir.
President.
All right, we're going to have committee meetings next Monday night. Mr. Waltney?
Just a couple of things. I wanted to commend Robert for a job well done and getting some new assistants with Melody coming back. So welcome back, Melody.
Thank you.
And Britt and I also wanted to announce that April 13th at 8 a.m. we're going to do our second run of the Rosedale Day of Service. So everybody come out and join us. We're going to be visiting neighbors and doing some work over there and just showing Homewood neighbors a little Homewood love. April 13th. We're working out the meet location since the park is currently a dirt patch. But yeah, no. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Thames.
I do not think I'll call P&D. It didn't look like the annexation agenda item will be worked out in a week.
No, I think it'll probably take longer.
No, I think that one's...
So we'll hold off on P&D. Melody, welcome back.
Thank you.
Excited to have you. And yeah, we'll have my old Sigma Nu fraternity from Sanford pitching in for our day of service.
Yeah.
So if you want to see if a fraternity can show up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, I'm not 100% sure they can. Well, unfortunately, the place has been initiated, but that would have been a good idea. So everybody come out and stay safe this evening and enjoy a day off of school tomorrow.
Thank you. Ms. Higginbotham?
Only to echo the welcome Ms. Salter back to her home. Let's call it her home. Let's call it what it is. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Great. Mr. Wolverton?
Just to clarify, you said 8:30?
8.
On the 13th? 8? 8.
And we'll send out additional
And
information.
how long do you think that'll run? Okay. There's a service group of ROTC candidates at Sanford that reached out to me about different projects.
Next
So
week, I'll have the website, I should check it, it hasn't uploaded, but I'll have the website up in the Facebook page.
there's about 25 of them. I don't know how many you guys need, so, okay. Just, I've got my eggs and milk and bread, and I didn't have to go to the store to get it. So, just enjoy the day off if you have it
All right.
off.
Good. Mr. McCluskey? Public.
Thank you.
We will set public safety. We'll set public safety for 5 minutes.
Good.
And carry on probably Anderson.
Yeah, it's all mine, sorry.
Well, if there's something on my agenda, I'm looking for Andrus because it's you. Is that the Jennifer Committee?
I was fighting with Barry for the most amount of items. Sorry.
And that's it.
Great.
I don't have.
Wait a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. Did I call your name? Mr. Jones,
I first
please.
wanted to ask Mr. Wolverton, did he have chickens? Because he had got eggs and didn't go to the store. Exactly.
Is that from an old Scottsboro
Welcome
resident?
back, Melody, and finance 5 o'clock, and I'll yield to Mrs. Smith now.
Sorry, I'm a
Mrs.
little
Smith.
punchy at this point. Welcome back, Melody. I've joined the chorus. And I don't have any actually new items, which no fence ordinances or sign variances, which is crazy. So I think I just have one thing, so I'm going to say 6 to 6:15. Actually, can I say 6 to 6:20? Is that weird?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, well, I'll just go ahead. I don't know how long that do you have any idea how long that iTools thing might take, Mike? Do you know how long?
Just call it 6.9, maybe 15 minutes.
Okay, so we'll just say 6:15. He'll just have to talk fast.
It's only Peter
Great.
behind you. Don't worry about it. Take as much time
Thank
as
you,
need.
Mr. Watt. Mr.
Nothing other than everyone be careful in the snow tomorrow, and welcome back.
Miss Andrews,
Welcome back, Melody. That's all I got.
Mr. Wright.
Have two things. Welcome back, Melody. And Robert, thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you,
Thank you
Robert.
for being there when we needed you. Thank you. Second thing I have is, since I'm an official show choir supporter, a show choir report, which shall be brief, in that we went down to Montgomery, and middle school wins. The three choirs, the girls' choir placed second. The associate show choir, the girls is called Legacy. The associate show choir won first, and then the grand championship group network got second to Auburn High School, and they are looking for revenge in 2 weeks. So, but it's a great performance, and my gosh, seeing all those Homewood folks, it's really a cool demonstration of seeing Homewood outside of its city limits. It's really pretty special stuff. So, and with that, Public Works will be set at the very convenient time of 6:15 or 6:17, and actually appropriately because I only have one item if it remains the case. I can't remember, so it should be brief. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Two thank yous. One, Mr. White, thank you so much for filling in for me 2 weeks ago. I really do appreciate that. It means a lot. And Mr. Burgett, thank you very, very much. We've had a brief marriage, but an interesting one for both of us. So with that, Melody, you and I know each other well, so this is going to be fun. With that, we'll stand adjourned.
Okay. So, get him to sign them?
No, I don't.
have one when y'all did it last time, so after Linda left.
If you got